Welcome to our History Lecture Series. My name is Mrs. Miriam Monaghan, and I am an online history instructor with Holmes Community College. I will be giving you a short lecture on women in ancient history for your Western Civilization 1 class. Please pay close attention to the information in this lecture. There will be a quiz at the end of this video. Gender roles have dominated the construction of society from the very beginning of time. If you've ever read the Bible, the book of Genesis introduces the man and woman, both given authority over the earth. Man taking the leadership role and woman being created as his helper. Men being dominant figures is first introduced in chapter 1 of our text, being the hunter. The text in the very beginning describes women as establishing domestic economy among her household. While men captured the food, women prepared and preserved it. As civilization grew, a woman's role remained consistent with the earliest depictions of her as the household keeper, and nothing much more. Women were considered inferior to men, and they were governed as such. Hebrew women were under strict mandates where men owned property, engaged in polygamy, and were given the right to divorce. Women were restricted. They could not own property, they could not initiate divorce, and eventually their participatory rights to religious rituals were stripped. Despite Hebrew women's inability to function as an equal citizen of this time, a very special Hebrew woman rose to rank as a prophet and a judge. Deborah, found in the biblical book of Judges, was asked to accompany the army of Hebrews to battle against the Canaanites. Deborah agreed to go, but stated, God will deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman. As the battle drew to an end, the Canaanites fled. Their commander, Sisera, sought refuge in the tent of Jael, where she lured him and slew him in his sleep, gaining victory for Hebrews. There are a few items of consideration in this story. Deborah was a judge during a time where females were not able to hold office. She accompanied the army, another uncommon practice for Hebrew women. She was a prophet, considered holy, and had a special direct connection to God, also uncommon for Hebrew women. She defied the odds and rose to power. Chapter 3 explores gender roles in ancient Greece during 1100 through 776 BCE. As most are familiar with the competitive nature of Greek men were known to exercise their authority over women. Because of this male control, ancient Greek women were viewed as underclass or second class to men. So much so that female children were sometimes abandoned for the desire of having male children. The next two slides will explore the roles of ancient Greek women, but also briefly discuss Spartan women who were considered non-traditional. The traditional woman in ancient Greece was considered subordinate to men. They could not exercise any rights despite their citizenship status. They could not manage household finances. They could not inherit property. Women had to be accompanied by a male in public. Ancient Greek women were often victims of domestic violence as there were no laws to protect them from abuse. Women's rights were minimal, restricted to religious services and matrimony. Women in ancient Greece were treated differently from city-state to city-state. Although the governing of women varied, the fact that women were not equal to men remained consistent. Some women could live more freely than others. However, women's rights, if they had any, were very small or non-existent. The Spartan woman. Sparta had a reputation of being militant, strong, and indestructible, known for starting training as young as toddlers to be fighters. The Spartan woman was no exception. As we have discussed the subordinate and submissive role of the ancient woman, we are introduced to a different woman, the Spartan woman. She was well trained in defense. She could own property. She could attend assemblies. She even dressed differently from the traditional female attire. The Spartan woman is particularly important because she offers us a different perception of the traditional ancient woman. This mini lecture is a brief introduction to women in ancient history. All that was presented can be found in your text, The Global West, Connections and Identities. It is important to note that women played a significant role in the development of civilization beyond the strength of the Spartan woman. Women became warriors, leaders, and activists. Behind any great person, story, or event is an even greater woman. Thank you for your attention.